So, good afternoon.
Hello, hello.
I love fitness and anything that has to do with it. I don't always live up to it, but it doesn't mean that I don't continue to have people like you that I meet that inspire me.
Ah, well, your
So,
energy is infectious and radiant, so you're doing all
so
right.
tell me. So, first, I want to ask you about prana. I just want to start with that because I know that it was mentioned to me that you have, this has been a journey to get to the point for you, right?
Yeah.
Where you could initiate prana. Tell me a little bit about what that is and what you're doing with it.
Yeah. So prana itself, the word means life force. So for me, when I was thinking about how I wanted to serve and coach women, it is not the aesthetic. It is not, trying to live up to some fitness goal. It is really how do we find vitality? How do we feel good every day? How do we maximize our energy? How do we show up 100%? And so really prana and life force really kind of stuck and came to me. And so my company, Prana Performance, performance is the way that our mind performs, our body performs, and the way that they perform synchronously. So that is how we came up with that.
So, what are you doing with your company?
Yeah, so I coach women on a number of different things, from nutrition to movement to mindset. So I came up with a method called FRESH, which is an acronym that stands for fuel. So how we fuel our mind and our body, not just through nutrition, but through education, through our relationships, the things that really light us up and fuel us. R is for rest and rejuvenation. So really ensuring that we are repairing, we're recovering, we're getting good sleep.
Well, that's hard nowadays. Yes.
Oh, it definitely is. So that's why all of that comes before E, which is exercise. People immediately want to dive into a training program. They're doing hours of cardio, they're working themselves to the bone. But if you're not establishing your fuel and your rest and recovery, you are inevitably going to kind of detract from your energy through, exercise. So want those to be established before going into exercise and moving our body. And then S is stress management. So along with sleep, how are we ensuring we are finding stress management, self-soothing techniques, lowering our cortisol levels? And then H is happiness. So that is our vocation, our careers, our relationships, how we find joy in the world. And so all of that together really creates kind of like the wheel of wellness.
It sounds to me like you did not want just fitness to be isolated from all these other things. I wrote down the word vitality.
Mm-hmm.
That is, I'm kind of a word geek.
I love that.
I was a little chubby thing when I was little. I won a lot of spelling bees. I have spelling bee trophies. And they make fun of me at my house where everybody's an athlete on a very routine basis. But I haven't heard the word vitality in a long time. And, being, Spanish, or if you've studied Latin or whatever, vida, so root of that, just the whole idea that your fitness is important to your vitality.
Yes.
But it's not alone. It's not isolated alone.
Right.
I wonder if you found that it is more successful people who only embark on a fitness regimen as opposed to people who view it as a lifestyle, and not just exercise, but who view this as a component of their life as opposed to a job. Like some days I go to the gym, it's a job, I just want my butt higher.
Yeah.
It's a job to make my glutes higher,
Right.
Do people stick with it more when it's when it is more of a personal, global, like your own little world thing?
Absolutely. I think that is probably the most important thing in establishing a fitness routine, a health regimen, is joy. If you feel like it's a chore, if you feel like it's forced, if your little inner roommate is telling you this sucks, then you are going to create that resistance before you even get in the gym every day. So
You've had some times in your life where this was a job, right?
Oh,
It didn't start out that way.
Right.
Tell me about your fitness journey. And I'm sure that kind of incorporates mentally where you went with it too.
Absolutely. So, really, my inspiration in health and wellness was my dad. So, my dad was an athlete growing up. I watched him eat very well. He prepared great food for me and the family. He would religiously get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and get in his workout.
That's
He
a
would do
really good role
cardio.
model for all that.
Oh
Yes.
my goodness.
Hard to live up to
right?
that, but yeah, a good role model.
Yeah, so I got to witness that from a very young age. And so I ended up becoming a competitive cheerleader. I did track. I really kept myself active growing up. So even when I went into college, I had two guy roommates who were on the hockey team. They were in the gym every day. So I was like, can I come with you guys? And so I learned a little bit more about weightlifting and proper training through them. So I had a pretty good, like, dialed kind of fitness routine, started meal prepping, all of that, and took care of myself. Then one day, one of my girlfriends was like, hey, I think you would be a perfect fit for bodybuilding. Why don't you just meet with my coach? And I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready for that. I was enjoying a very leisurely lifestyle, traveling, partying, all that stuff. And
College stuff.
Yes. Yeah. So I ended up meeting with her bodybuilding coach, and it was a point in my life where I really wanted to kind of interrupt some of the patterns that, were perpetuating as far as like drinking and partying and staying up late. And he gave me the cold hard truth. He's like, listen, if you want to invest in this, these two lives cannot coincide. This is something that you have to commit to and go all in. And it scared me a little bit.
I bet it made you, sometimes when a person doesn't have they don't have something inspiring the discipline to remove themselves from something that they're not happy with. Like maybe it was fun, but you'd outgrown it, hard to pull yourself away.
Right.
And then this discipline comes that makes you do it. If you choose it.
Right.
You must have chosen that.
I did, not immediately. I took some time, and sat on it. And I was like, this is it. Just in my heart, I was like, I need a pattern interrupter. And that was it. So I started training as a bikini competitor, and just immediately felt like I was in the right place at the right time. I found a gift and just went all in on it. And so my first season, my very first show, my family was there. My uncle, who's like my biggest cheerleader, I ended up winning every class.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, as soon as my heel hit the stage, I was like, I'm meant to do this. And so I ended up getting nationally qualified at my first show. Somebody
so much for working your way up to it.
Yeah, it was like, okay, we got something here. So ended up getting nationally qualified, went to nationals that year, definitely bit off a little bit more than I could chew, but after that, it was off to the races. So I ended up doing very well for the first 2 years. I won every show that I entered and ended up going to nationals in Pittsburgh and took top 5 in my second year.
Oh, wow.
So close to getting my pro card, but that's when I first started to like taste it. I was like, we are so close. I really genuinely wanted to become a pro competitor.
Now, how does one, and I don't know anything about this, how does one support yourself because it takes hours in the gym, right? It takes dedication, takes a certain amount of food. I mean, those of us who, like you were working every day and what was your degree in?
Psychology.
Okay. So it's like, if you weren't a psychologist, you might be in sales or you might be in marketing there's a variety of, of vocations.
Yeah.
But you're moving away from that and just doing this. How do you survive?
So I was a professional recruiter for 7 years, and I was doing that alongside bodybuilding, which actually was really good for the time being because it gave me structure. I was waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I was getting in an hour of cardio. I was bringing in my eggs and my oatmeal in a Tupperware container. After I'm done with cardio, I'm in the locker room eating my breakfast.
Everyone who looks so hot has the most boring lifestyle.
It
People
was
don't realize
atrocious. Yeah. So I mean,
in by
before.
in asleep, nini by 9 o'clock or something crazy
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. In a
Grandma.
coma at 8.
100%. I mean, it was all encompassing. Like my life became bodybuilding. So, even when I was in the office, I had all of my meals prepped and
Did you have any romantic interest in your life at that moment?
Yeah. So I was dating
How?
someone.
Did you have any time for this between making your oatmeal and doing your work shifts?
Yeah. So we were dating before bodybuilding, and it was really funny because after I started getting going, there was the question. It was like, when are you going to be done with this? Like he saw me go through a lot of mental and physical warfare, essentially. And I do remember one specific instance where I am a couple weeks out from my competition. Your energy is low, your hormones are going crazy, your mood is everywhere, you're tired, you're irritable, and you're eating like fish and lettuce, essentially. And I walked into the house and he's watching football with his roommate with a fat pizza on the table. And I walked in and I immediately started crying. I was like, you don't support me. And
Oh, no.
it's like, girl, this has nothing to do with
And
him. Like, you chose this life.
And he's got to live his life too.
Absolutely.
It would be hard for me to live my life with somebody so disciplined because I would feel constant guilt that I was like, 2 chips. Oh my gosh.
Right. God bless his soul. Like how I really respect him for how much he did put up with during the time that I was bodybuilding, because I cannot imagine it was easy.
Now, for a small time, I used to teach ballet, and for a very small time, I lost enough weight because I was vying for a particular part and back then there was no PC about weight. Like they would post our weight and, the teacher would be like, somebody's getting some weight. It's you, Miss Nadine. And, there'd be like, the whole class of people. But I lost my period for 6 months. And my mother was like, something wrong with you. So I'm sure that if you are getting to the point where you have no fat on your body, right, that it must wreak havoc with hormones, whether you're a man or a woman. But imagine, if you're a girl.
Yeah. And that was a big part of the journey too. And why inevitably I ended up stepping back from bodybuilding. Because at 26 years old, I had tanked my testosterone. And I saw a nutritionist and she said, if you continue on this path, you're never going to have children. And so it gave me a big wake up call to really evaluate how much it meant to me to continue doing what I was doing.
Was it the supplements, or what is everything, the whole lifestyle?
It's the whole lifestyle. So it was not nourishing my body. So just not getting in enough micronutrients. I'm just eating essentially protein and lettuce. I was eating tilapia and green beans, the last couple of weeks just to completely lean out. And the stress I was putting on my body physically. I mean, they're preparing for nationals. I was doing 3 a days. I was doing 2-hour sessions of cardio, working out. Yeah. And, when your stress levels are that high, I mean, I was not resting. I was falling asleep, but my body was not recovering and repairing. So pretty much just the entire extreme protocol I was putting myself through just tanked my hormones.
A lot of the things that happen to us in our lives prepare us to help other people, prepare us to keep our minds sharp. Because at 26, had you not had those experiences, I mean, you have a loving family, you have a good person in your life, we lead kind of charmed lives. You know what I mean? You have a degree, you have things in your life that are gifts.
Yes.
So now going through this, it does give you some perspective on when things become out of kilter and gives you some street cred.
Yeah.
Right? For talking to people about how to maybe give their lives a little bit more balance.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be the same addiction, if you will. Because, a person can get addicted to being perfect in bodybuilding or, a stressful life. But apparently, if that was that out of kilter and somebody gave you a wake-up call.
Oh, yeah.
Then maybe that gives you now the gift of being a wake-up call for somebody else.
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, that is a big part of what has contributed to Prana Performance and looking at our well-being as a spectrum. And we are all so different. So we have to look at each element and how it fits in our lives and create a blueprint for that. When I got started in bodybuilding, kind of just blindly followed the protocol. I ate what I was told, I trained how I was told, I put a lot of trust in my coach to steer me in the right direction. And I just woke up one morning as I'm preparing for, my ninth or 10th show. I'm not a rookie in the sport anymore. And I woke up and I'm preparing my oatmeal and I just started crying into the bowl of oatmeal. And I'm like, I should not feel this way. At this time I was, 27, 28 years old. I was like, this is not the life I want to lead. So that was one of my last competitions before I really looked at kind of what my future was going to look like. Like as a pro athlete, you go through the ranks as an amateur, as I did. You go to the pros, you start back out at the bottom of the totem pole. You're in a whole other league. So if I'm feeling this way now, it is only going to compound moving forward. So I had to really have a coming to Jesus moment and say, you know what? I don't think I'm going to become a pro athlete. Let's reevaluate
That's
this.
hard because when you achieve success in something, it begins to define your identity completely.
Yeah.
So at this point, you must see yourself as a pro athlete,
Yeah.
a budding pro athlete who's already conquered the amateur world.
Yes.
So now that would make me feel a little lost. The blueprint would be a big deal because you can't do, there's that old, old adage, I use it all the time in bodybuilding. And if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail, but that, just in terms of having a blueprint of mixing things up, having things be in kilter. And at 20, you were 27, right? You don't have a lot of perspective sometimes in your 20s.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Completely.
So you have this sort of come to Jesus moment. And do you just make a clean break, or do you get a new coach, or do you go back to a regular, traditional career? What do you do?
All the things. I mean, that is exactly all the things that were going on in my mind. I'm like, is there a better route if I go with a different coach? Do I coach myself? Do I separate completely? And so I took some time off, about 6 months, to just stop tracking my food, counting every grain of rice, weighing out all my meals. I started training intuitively instead of logging all of my workouts. I went in the gym and just kind of did a body scan. I'm like, okay, how do I feel? What do I want to work on today? And I realized how much resistance there was to having no plan.
What the guilt. I tried to keep, as somebody who went from being sort of a chubby child to all the, the other side of the, the spectrum, being too thin to have my period, I've had some not great relations with food in my life. And I log everything I eat, and the guilt, it's almost like not going to confession in church. Like I had this piece of pizza. I don't know how much. Is it a third? Is it an eighth? How much of the pie was it? I got to write it down.
That's so stressful.
And so, but a thing that you put on yourself, but breaking away from it after you've been indoctrinated into it.
Yes. Yeah.
Must be almost like not an addict, but you've got to wean yourself off of this.
I mean, you're absolutely right. So I came to terms with the fact that I had an eating disorder. Like I really got so anxious just putting my scale away and not counting everything. And you hit the nail on the head. It's like when you have already accepted that you're a pro athlete, or, you're a musician or a lawyer, your identity is wrapped up in that. So I wasn't bodybuilding. I was a bodybuilder. So my identity, my work, my clients, everything really had to be unraveled after that. And so I had to completely rebuild like who I was as a person, and had realized that I had kind of not listened to my body and all the messages that it was sending me over time. Obviously enough to tank my hormones, I was not listening to the signals that my body was sending me. So when I took a step back, those months where I just decided to like intuitively work out and intuitively eat, I realized how much I kind of disrespected my body and my mind, and just like this intuitive, like nurturing essence that we have as women. I was living such a hyper masculine life. I had a very hardcore old school bodybuilding coach. And yeah, I really had to start over, like with my health and fitness journey, retraining my movement patterns, understanding how to nourish my body instead of eating for aesthetics, how to take a step back and sleep and take a day off.
While it may have been not a moment in time, but compared to all your life, a moment for you, you know, where you have veered away from some of the more traditional things. You know, I heard you were even an intake recruiter at Morgan and Morgan.
Yes.
There's some crazy stories there.
Oh, girl.
Because I think nobody who has a valid case, unless they know you, is calling you at 2:00 in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
The crazies are calling you. But I thank God I have a lot of repeat clients, because you know, you don't have to rely on crazies calling you at 2 in the morning if you've taken really good care of people. But you've done that, and then been refocused on to extreme fitness, if you will. But you didn't decide to just like scrap it. You just said, I have to make it mine, right?
Yes.
So is that when you decided to go in the direction of because you still have to have a career for yourself. You still have to maintain your expenses and everything else. We can't forget about a livelihood either. So you move away from this, and is that when you open up Bella Prana, or?
So
Sorry, not Bella Prana. Yoga
performance. And that is
performance.
Yeah, and that's funny because that is actually where I learned about prana. Bella Prana, hands down, when I started doing yoga there, I learned so much more on my mat, just about my mind, my body, than I ever did in any of my fitness training. So yeah, shout out to Bella Prana.
Some inspiration.
Yes.
And so is that, I mean, because it takes courage also to start your own business and to trust that you're going to be able to make something out of it to support yourself.
Right. So I had actually started coaching women while I was bodybuilding. It was nothing I really anticipated getting into, but having success early on in bodybuilding, there was a big interest in people just reaching out to me like, hey, would you be open to training me? I see people saw me go from like this party girl in college who was just completely lost to now being, a nationally qualified athlete and had a lot going for me. So I started coaching women. I had some lifestyle clients who it was just, basic nutrition and training and building a good routine and self-care. And then I had a couple competitive clients as well. So I was actually coaching women to the stage as well, helping them with posing, helping them with all the protocols. And I took a step back and was still coaching women to the stage. And it felt almost dirty.
Yeah, I was going to say, this has got to create an inner conflict because on the one hand, they're asking you for this help to take them to a place that in your mind is unhealthy. So must feel dirty. It's not, but I think if you continue on that path, regardless of the way you feel about where it's taking them, I think it would become dirty.
Right.
But I could see where in the beginning you would be just helping them as they asked.
Right. And I noticed, with my lifestyle clients, we were coaching for lifelong health and wellness, sustainability. And then on the flip side, with the competitive clients, it never felt like enough. If you want to be leaner, you want more muscle, it's like this chase. So inevitably, I kind of whittled down my roster. I helped some of my last clients through their competition, and I had to really step back from that entirely, because there was like this cognitive dissonance where I knew, like you said, it wasn't healthy, and it's not how we wanted to serve and perpetuate women's health in the world.
Well, I'm getting the signal that our time is up, but I would like to have you back and when you have time and talk about how you are helping now through Prana Performance, a blueprint for vitality, I guess I'll call it. I don't know. I haven't seen any of your promotional stuff, but I'm sure that you're helping some really interesting people. Not that you can tell me about your clients. I'm not saying, but it's giving you a whole new, different perspective on how people can be healthy and fit and have a better mindset.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. Finding joy and finding happiness and wanting to increase your energy and show up in the world, just a whole vital, beautiful human being.
In your business now, in the business that you formulated, you get to be front and center, not only helping them, helping them lead the way, but watching somebody be successful, that must be really fulfilling.
With my clients, I wouldn't say I'm leading the way. I definitely feel like I'm leading by example, but I'm really walking the path with my clients. I have a very, very close relationship with all of them. And yeah, we're doing this together.
Neat. Well, so nice to meet you.
Yes, you as well. Thank you for having me.
And I want to get you back, like I said, and
I'd
talk
love to.
Prana Performance.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.